Hi, my name is Andy Hickman, co-founder of Online College Planning. The purpose behind this presentation is really to give you some insight into what you should be doing on a year-by-year basis as your student progresses through high school. We were asked by a number of high school guidance counselors to provide this sort of insight to parents who were struggling with knowing what to do, when to do it, and how to get it all done. Another aspect of this presentation is to help parents and students understand how they should go about choosing a college and the reason for going to college. Before I get started, I'd like to ask a very simple question to illustrate a point. I'd like you to think about the last time you made a purchase at any major retail outlet, including Amazon or any online retailer. Were you ever in a position when you made that purchase to use a coupon, a discount, a gift card, Kohl's Cash, anything it might have been to reduce the out-of-pocket expense that you incurred? Obviously, I think for most of you, the answer is yeah. When I shop retail, I like to shop around. I like to get a good deal. I would like you to think in terms of today's presentation being the opportunity to get a coupon on college, something that can provide you a very real opportunity to reduce your out-of-pocket expense. And I say that based on my knowledge of how college planning works for most parents, what most families are doing, and why that's creating a result that is less than optimal. Believe it or not, there are opportunities to save a lot of money on college, and I'm going to introduce you to a few of those things today. The other thing that I want you to think about, there's an application that allows you to see what other people paid for a car, right? So when you go shopping for a car, you don't just go to the dealer and say, I want that one. You get a price and you pay it. You have some insight into knowing what other people have paid for that car. Wouldn't it be nice if you could do that with college? And I'm going to tell you right now that if you get nothing else out of today's presentation, understand there are immense resources. And the resources that exist to do that comparison shopping are out there. So don't lose sight of that, and don't simply pay sticker price. That's a common misunderstanding, and one of the reasons why many colleges are trying to attract out-of-state students to their state schools. They pay a higher price, and international students who are largely unaware of financial aid. So they want to have the greatest number of students paying the highest price for their product, naturally, because discounting costs them money. So let's slide into the topic, and before we do that, we're going to give you just a little bit of insight into our company. Again, my name is Andy Hickman, a co-founder, along with Todd Kelly of a number of college planning firms. Our focus has always been to try to bring the right strategies, the right step-by-step approach to planning for college, because we know firsthand, as both Todd and myself have had or do have students in college, it's a daunting task. It can be overwhelming. There's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of pressure, especially on the students. We wanted to provide as much insight and as many tools to calm the waters and to make the process as simple as possible. We've done more than 4,000 weekly webinars now on helping parents and helping professional college planners identify the opportunities that exist to reduce the out-of-pocket expense, choose the right fit college. And by right fit, I don't just mean academically. I mean academically, from a career standpoint, from a budget standpoint. There has to be a number of fits to make this whole thing make sense and to avoid some of the miserable statistics that I'll introduce you to in just a moment. So my goals for this presentation are fairly simple. I'm going to give you first a timeline, things that students should be doing, whether they're in their freshman year in high school, sophomore, junior, or senior, to prepare for and choose the right college. Everything I'm going to talk about today is really about selecting the right college. Now, there's going to be some steps involved that you say, well, what does that have to do with choosing the right college? I will share that with you along the way. Then I want you to begin thinking like a college. We're going to talk about understanding the data that's out there in the statistics. Now, I know you've heard statistics can paint any picture you want it to paint. My purpose of showing you the statistics is to teach you and share with you how you can be a better consumer. If you're aware of some of these statistics that I'm going to show you, and some of these statistics you're going to have to find on your own because they're dependent on the individual schools. And you're going to hear today that there's more than 4,500 campuses for your student to choose from, so I can't give you the statistics for all of them in this presentation. But what I can do is share with you that the data that you should be seeking out to make a good decision. We're also going to talk about colleges looking for the student. when we talk about most college selection processes, I find that they're very unidirectional. A student identifies what kind of school they want. But it's also important to recognize that colleges want a particular type of student. And if we can take a bi-directional approach at that, think like a college, understand what they want. We're going to talk about the admissions offices and what they're looking for. You'll begin to understand that schools have to fill a whole bunch of seats in their classrooms. They have an ideal student and then everybody else that fills the seats. The ideal student is going to be that student who they really want to offer admissions to, and they really want to give preferential financial aid and scholarships to. I'm going to give you some insight then on evaluating schools, how you pit them head to head. Remember, I talked at the outset about being able to compare one school to another and what have other people paid for that same product. Really, the only thing that you have at your disposal are reports that show what the out-of-pocket expense or what the sticker price is actually going to be. I think you've heard of net price calculators, things like that are available online, but that doesn't really tell you what everybody else is paying. So we're going to talk about that just a little bit and how to evaluate. Now, I've got in there Q&A. We give this presentation on a live basis. Unfortunately, you don't have the opportunity to ask questions live, but I will tell you that at the end of this presentation, I'm going to give you some very specific assignments, and hopefully you've received this presentation as a mailer from a guidance counselor or perhaps through one of our other distribution channels, and if you have, we always include a number of resources, links to things that we think are valuable for you to use, and we give you an introduction to our own website. Now, I'm going to tell you right here that our website, and I should have done this earlier, but our website, Online College Planning, is a wealth of data and information presented for you. In fact, one of your homework assignments, one of the next steps that I'll introduce you to, involves our website. So again, if you have to leave early, you don't get through this entire presentation, which I think will take about 30 minutes, at least go to the website, onlinecollegeplanning.com. You will find 60 links on our resource page to excellent resources, everything from searching for scholarships, understanding loan opportunities, writing essays, ACT, SAT prep, college selection. There's a lot of great tools out there, most of which are free. We introduce you to our blueprints. These are packaged solutions. Bottom line is Online College Planning is an aggregate site. What I mean by that is a number of years ago, we identified the best college planners and the best resources in the entire country because we recognized that parents are all over the place. And it's highly unlikely that the best experts in the entire country exist in your community. We wanted to present parents the opportunity to find out who was the best in the business. Where are these great tools that can save me a lot of time, energy, money, and eliminate a lot of frustration with respect to college? Where are those tools? Well, they're on Online College Planning. We've packaged them into very simple solutions. We call them blueprints. We show you what's included in every blueprint and show you why it's important. And we've included samples along with this presentation, again, if you've gotten it through one of our distribution channels or through a guidance counselor's. But I'm going to give you next steps and kind of a recap. Now, before I talk about step by step, everything that you need to do in freshman through senior year, I want to ask a very fundamental question. And if you can answer this question, I believe, and when I say you, I mean the parents and the student alike, you increase the opportunity to graduate on time from the right school. So here's the question. What is the goal for college? We ask that question to almost every parent and family we work with. We ask that student of every student. We think it is absolutely vital to have a very clear understanding, because when you paint that end goal very clearly, it makes reaching that goal a whole lot easier. You know, you can say, if anybody were to ask you where you going on vacation, you say, I don't know, then you can go any place, right? It doesn't matter, and any place isn't going to be as fun as someplace very specific. So the more specific we can get on our goal, the easier it is to get there, the more motivating elements there are, the more ownership of that goal there is. And the answer we usually get when we ask that question is some variation of to graduate. I'll ask another question because I think this is very important for you to understand. If your son or daughter attained graduation after going to college for a full 6 years, they were $100,000 in student loan debt when they did that, and the degree they received has absolutely no application to the career they're pursuing. Is that a successful college pursuit? They graduated. And of course, the answer is probably for most of you, no. That was a lot of money spent, a lot of time used to get to a product that really didn't do much for us. So really what I think you need to incorporate, and I encourage families to sit down and talk about this. It is that important. If you can get clear on this, this is going to be a great money saver for you. But it's to graduate from the right college with the right degree, do so in the shortest period of time without breaking the bank, and earn a degree that will allow your son or daughter to pursue the career that they are uniquely suited and interested to pursue. That, I believe, is the goal of going to college. A number of years ago, I wrote an article for the Cincinnati Enquirer, a newspaper in Cincinnati, suggesting that college had become a bit of a rite of passage. We simply say, well, the student's a senior in high school, so after they graduate in June, I guess following September, they'll just go to college. And it's with that degree of, I will call it flippancy, that we wind up wasting a lot of time and money. We choose the wrong college. We don't declare a major until the second year. We graduate in 6 years, or if at all, and I'm going to share with those statistics with you, and we wind up, saying, wow, that was a lot of money, and did it really matter? Please don't misinterpret. I am very pro-education. I think it's fabulous. Is college right for every student? Absolutely not. There are too many channels and too many opportunities to enter the career world outside of college that I think far too many students are completely unaware of. If college is right for you, if you can answer this question and feel good about it and it becomes motivating to you, I can honestly say that, yeah, college might be right for you. All right, let's continue. Let's talk about the freshman year. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying these are not the only things you should be taking a look at in the freshman year. In fact, we have a 48-month course, 48 months, 4 full years, showing parents and students what they need to do on a month-by-month basis beginning in the freshman year all the way through the senior year of high school. Every single month, we tell the parents what they should be doing, the students what they should be doing, we tell the family what they should be doing together, and we tell them why. It's always important. You got to understand the why behind everything you do to prepare for college or anything else in life, I believe. So the first thing we do during the freshman year is we want to get a student on campus. Why do we do that? It seems too early. Why are we choosing a college already? We're not. We're not choosing a college at all. What we're doing is trying to demystify the college experience. See, a lot of kids, by the time they're sophomores, even juniors, haven't yet stepped foot on campus. They might not have an older sibling. They don't know what college is all about, and this increases the pressure that they feel when they feel as though they've got to make a lifelong decision as a junior or senior about what college and what major, and geez, it just gets to be overwhelming. We want to get them on campus early. We want to show them what a campus is. Look, it's just a bunch of classrooms, kind of like high school. Yeah, there's some differences. There might be a climbing wall and a lazy river and a Starbucks on campus, but the fact of the matter is, it's just another school at a higher level. So we want to demystify, we want to create some calmness about this. Look, we're trying to, when we talk to parents of freshmen, we're trying to eat this elephant one bite at a time so we don't find ourselves in the senior year having to scramble and get everything done. Now, having said that, I know there's a number of you with a student who is a senior saying, uh-oh, I'm going to have to scramble and do everything at once. There is a process. We can get you through it, but our timeline is obviously very collapsed now. So don't panic if you're seeing some of this stuff and saying, oh, I've got a junior and they haven't done any of this. It's okay, but now you know what you have to focus on. Next thing we talk about is high school curriculum. In a little bit, I'm going to be talking about the admissions offices and what they're looking for. And the reason that we focus on high school curriculum during the freshman year is we want students to know that grades are important. In fact, they are the single most important aspect of the admissions decision that will be made in 4 short years for their invitation to come to a college campus. There's a report that is created called the State of Admissions. It's created by an organization called NACAC, the National Association of College Counseling. And in that report, I think there's something like 2,000 colleges responded this year. And admissions offices from 2,000 colleges say, okay, here's what we use to determine if a student is going to be invited. Grades almost always number 1. High school curriculum is important. Now, when I talk about high school curriculum too, and you can see the next one is class level. We've got AP, we've got International Baccalaureate, we've got college prep classes. You have to decide what kind of curriculum you're going to pursue. I want to be real careful about this and make sure that you understand that the admissions offices care about grades, okay? I have heard time and time again from admissions counselors, there's some variations to this, there are some exceptions, but in general, admissions counselors like to see an A over a B. If you took an AP class and got a B and could have taken a regular class and gotten an A, admissions officers like to see A's over B's. They like to see that the student is progressing with respect to the rigor in their program, but it doesn't mean they have to take an AP course first. If they took an AP course as a freshman and wind up backing down to a college prep course in their sophomore year, that doesn't show a level of progression. So the admissions office likes to see a progression first, then they like to see the GPA, then they like to see the level of rigor. And I'm going to talk about that more, but just understand that the class level and so forth is really important. We talk about resume and developing a resume for college. We like to get students focused on creating that resume and logging what they have done from a leadership standpoint, athletic standpoint, participation, major events in their life. Let's get that all written down so that when it comes time to do a collegiate interview, that we are well prepared and we don't have to scramble and think about everything we've done for the last 4 years. And part of that can become the incorporation of summer jobs. Summer jobs can create some really cool opportunities. Namely, it can create another fund for college. Look, if a student is making minimum wage for a summer job, can they put 20% of that away for college? And can they put 50, maybe 100%? Every situation is going to be different, but that creates another resource. I believe all resources are good, however small or large. So that creates one opportunity. But another thing that it does is it can show, external to your academic experience for a college admissions office, it can show tenacity. It can show leadership. If you return to the same job for the next 3 years and the next 4 years, and you keep getting increasingly more responsibility at those jobs, if you've moved into a leadership position in those jobs, it doesn't matter whether you go in as a hamburger flipper. If you wind up being a shift leader, that is a progression. That's something that can be included in a resume. Colleges are looking for certain characteristics. Understand that. The experience of a summer job doesn't just have to be about money. Also, in the freshman year, we want to talk to parents about financial literacy. I'm here to tell you, if you don't know this already, not only is college expensive, but when it comes to the expense, colleges use a language of their own. You'll hear terms and acronyms like FAFSA, EFC, COA, IPA, and it's not a beer, APA. These are financial terms that are used during college, and we want to make sure that parents have an exposure to these terms. I mentioned earlier on our website we've got a number of resources. One of the most important, I believe, is a series of 3 to 5 minute videos, and it explains some of these acronyms here, some of the important financial ones. So I would encourage you, it's a free course, 3 to 5 minute videos. I think there's maybe, 5 or 10 videos, or could be fewer, but we set these videos up so you can learn some of these things that were going to become vital, because if you don't understand the language, how can you possibly put yourself in a position of getting the best deal financially, right? So financial literacy of paramount importance. Let's move on to the sophomore year. In the sophomore year, we want to talk about those AP classes and AP tests. And again, the reason that we do is, again, we want to refocus on the fact that the A's are more important than the rigor of the course. The progression, again, very important. But look, you can take the AP class, which can represent a nice rigor element for the admissions office. But what about the test? Taking the test, and again, taking the test doesn't ensure that you've got credits that will move on to college, because you have to score a certain level on a test. You score a 3, it might not be transferable. You score a 4, it might not be transferable. But you have to be cognizant of the fact that it's just not about taking the class. It's the class and the test that can progress you further in college and allow you to take more advanced courses in college sooner. In the sophomore year, that's when we want to start understanding what the EFC is, so that we can begin focusing on opportunities to maximize financial aid eligibility. Now, I may have used an unfamiliar term, EFC. EFC is your expected family contribution. EFC is determined by using a very precise formula against your income, your assets, the student's income, the student's assets, the size of the family, the age of mom and dad, the number of students in the family, and number of students that are going to be in college in the family at the same time. So we take all those factors, and the way those factors are gathered is based on a form called the FAFSA form. FAFSA, F-A-F-S-A, free application for federal student aid. You'll complete that in your student's senior year. Almost the moment they go back to school, October of their senior year, you'll complete that form. There's about 130 questions on it, and the output of that form is your EFC. But we want to do an EFC calculation in the sophomore year because we like preparing. We don't like surprises. We want to do that well ahead of time, and we want to do that knowing that in the sophomore year, in January of a student's sophomore year, that's the beginning of the base financial year. So when they take that snapshot of income, as I mentioned, they're going to look at the income in the sophomore year, beginning January in that sophomore year through December, which will be into the junior year. That becomes the base financial year. So whatever income you earn in the sophomore year impacts your financial aid eligibility 2 years from now. And a lot of parents don't find that out until their student is a junior or senior, and that income is behind them. Nothing they can do about it. But your awareness of the EFC can then transcend into an awareness of how you can impact that EFC, opportunities to reduce your EFC or expected family contribution. If you can reduce your EFC, you'll ultimately wind up potentially paying a lot less for college because you'll receive a lot more beneficial financial aid from the right college. All right, we can talk more about that. We've got a lot of tools and resources, again, on our website. What I want to tell you is we've got a report, again, a free report on our website. It's under the Services tab on onlinecollegeplanning.com. I believe it says Free College Planning Report. And from there, just click on that. You fill out a fact finder that'll take you less than probably 5 or 10 minutes, and it'll generate a report. That report will show you what your EFC is based on the information that you put in. It'll show you the cost of attendance of a school that you've selected. It'll show you the financial aid eligibility you may have. It'll point out if you have more financial aid eligibility that's hidden somewhere. And if you do, if that report comes out and says you do, you might want to give us a call, and we'll see if we can help you out understand where that is and what you need to do to take advantage of that. The other thing that report will show you are the scholarship opportunities at that school that you've identified your student is interested in. And I know not everybody knows the school in the sophomore year. That's unimportant. We want you to see this report because we want you to see the type of information that you have access to that can ultimately reduce your out-of-pocket expense and help you choose the right school. So it'll show you the graduation rate in 4 and 6 years. Why is 6 years important? I'll talk about that in a little bit, but it'll show you the 4-year graduation rate. But those scholarships at the school that your son or daughter is academically eligible for, we see everybody just kind of really interested in that. Some people get 1 or 2 scholarships, some people get none, some people get 4 pages of scholarships. So that report is really kind of beneficial on 10 different fronts. So I would encourage you to run that. Again, it's on the website. In the sophomore year, we talk about tests, the PSAT, the ACT, and SAT prep. Why? Well, the PSAT has a number of functions. You may or may not know that puts you on a eligibility list for National Merit scholarships. That's money. It also puts every student who takes that test on probably the single biggest college-bound student mailing list. I'm here to tell you that colleges spend millions of dollars every single year trying to find that perfect student. I'm going to talk a little bit about what the perfect student is for every college, but they're trying to find that perfect student, the one that they can offer admissions to, the one that they will probably give financial aid to and scholarships to. They're trying to find them. So they buy lists. So taking the PSAT puts you on a list. Now that doesn't mean that the colleges that market to you are going to be a perfect fit. We got to go a little bit further, but that's a start. Now, ACT and SAT prep, I have a few words to tell you about that one. ACT and SAT prep can be important, but the PSAT can be a predictor of how well or how poorly you will ultimately do on the ACT and the SAT. What that should be is kind of an early indicator of, oh, you know what, we need some remedial help. We need some preparation classes or courses to get a better grade on the ACT, SAT, if ultimately the school you want to go to is going to rely on standardized test scores as part of their admission criteria. I'm going to show you admission criteria and where that fits in a little bit, but this is an early indicator. Now, along with that, I want you to recognize that there are more and more colleges out there that are beginning to recognize that GPA and curriculum have every bit as much of an ability to predict a student's future academic success in college as a standardized test. They also know that the standardized test, they know that families are spending a lot of money pursuing these courses. They're out there, and I've seen courses that are $2,000 and $3,000 and higher, depending on the type of course that you get, because parents know if we can get just 3 more points on that ACT, that puts us in line for an extra $2,000 of scholarships at the college. Some colleges work off of a strict grid. They say if you scored this on the ACT, you get this much money. So there's parents and families that go absolutely nuts about taking the test repeatedly until they ultimately get the grade they want. And it's a little like scamming the system. I've even seen strategies for the ACT, SAT that have nothing to do with aptitude or academic intelligence or anything like that. They say, if you absolutely don't know the answer to any question, just pick the same answer, C, every time you don't know the answer. Just pick C. Because statistically, I guess somebody believes that if you just pick the same answer, you have a better chance of getting some of them or a higher percentage right. I don't know whether that holds water, but what I'm telling you is colleges are beginning to sniff that out. So more and more colleges are saying, hey, if you don't want to take the ACT, SAT prep, it's not required here. And we've got some major colleges. I know in Cincinnati, Xavier University is the newest one to be added to the list, but there's a ton of them that are going to test optional. So just keep that in mind if you happen to have a student that has terrible test anxiety or just doesn't test well. The next thing I want to talk about is scoring college visits. In the sophomore year, we want to talk about developing a routine for going on college visits, even attending college fairs. The same thing applies. We can get a lot of value out of these things, and I've got a screen I'm going to show you here in a little bit all about how you go about doing this. But I'm going to tell you right here and now that if your students can ask the same question on every college visit, and the questions have to be obviously important to them, they have to have some purpose. The bottom line here is that we want them to have a scoring ability. So every time they go on a college visit, they have a scorecard, and the college comes out with a number. The higher the number, the greater that school meets the student's expectations. So it's a scoring opportunity. If you don't do that, all you're doing is you're subjecting yourself to a marketing opportunity at the school. It's a dog and pony show. They want to show you, once they get you on campus, they just want to get you excited. They want you to enter the line of students who will eventually write a check to their school. That's their objective. They would prefer you didn't know necessarily their graduation rate or the number of students that are employed in their career immediately upon graduation. If they aren't proud of those numbers, those are not things you're going to hear in their marketing opportunities or their standard college visit routines. So keep that in mind, and I'm going to give you some highlights here on how to create a college visit scorecard. Let's talk about the junior year. Some of you know with athletes, student athletes, that the junior year is that time when college coaches can begin to talk to the athletes. There's different rules for any type or any level of athletics, whether that's NCAA, NAIA. There's going to be things that you need to be aware of. So we want the juniors to know and be able to pursue the coaches in a manner that best suits them. By the way, if you're a student athlete and you're going to play at the next level, the one question that you're almost always going to hear from a coach, if you know that question and know how to answer it, chances are pretty good you're going to interest that coach. Here's the question. You ready? What other coaches have you talked to? The reason they ask that is because every coach, every single year, is in a bit of protective mode. College coaches are paid to win. And if there's a school out there that they lose to every single year, that better be the one that you tell that coach you're going to look into, or you've already talked to their coach. Find the school that they lose to. Now, you don't have to want to go there, but go talk to that coach. Because if the coach at the school you want to go to knows that you're also talking to them and he wants you, he's going to go out of his way to try to get you on his team because he doesn't want to see you on the other side of that line. So that's just one of those things that we talk about to the student athletes. I want to talk about life beyond college, career values and interests. Here's the thing. We want the student to begin exploring major opportunities. And you see the very next one, life in college, defining the major. The major and the career go hand in hand. There's a lot of great tools out there, believe it or not, that can help even a junior, and especially juniors and seniors, help them define their major based on their career interests. Now, it's impossible, for the most part, for a junior in high school to know what they want to do for the rest of their lives when they graduate from college 5 years from now. but we can begin identifying career characteristics. There's a number of tools and resources out there that we mentioned, some of them on the website again, onetonline.org, onetonline.org. It's one of those websites that has just a fabulous description of career characteristics. You can type in almost any career type. If we think there's a remote interest in being a chemist, type in chemist. It'll come up with 1,000 different jobs related to chemistry or chemists, and it'll tell you things like starting salary, hiring opportunities, regional hiring opportunities, mid-career salaries, and degree requirements, education requirements, future education requirements. It'll tell you just a number of things. It's a great resource. But job shadowing, and remember, job shadowing doesn't have to be in something they like. It can be in something they think they just don't like. Ruling things out is every bit as valuable as ruling things in. So job shadowing becomes just a tremendous exercise, I believe. And while they're job shadowing, chances are they're job shadowing where there are more than one job type. So they might be able to see and observe a number of different job types when they are job shadowing one particular job. But we like that to begin happening in the junior year. There's a very specific reason behind this. We believe strongly in reverse engineering and declaring a major based on education, not just guessing and aptitude. What I'm going to tell you is that your career and your major absolutely have to have an association beyond aptitude. We can't just say, I'm good in math, so I guess I should be a CPA. Doesn't hold water. Now, that might work for a handful of people, but unless we've incorporated a student's values and their interests, we're going to fall very short of getting them excited about a career pursuit. There has to be an alignment on major and career that includes aptitude, interests, and values. It's not an equal split. It's, we want to make sure that the student has great aptitude, that they're super interested, that it perfectly aligns with their values. There's going to be some, agreement in each of those three, or some percentage of importance in each of those three that's different for every student. But it has to include those three things. If we're just measuring aptitude, then you're going to wind up with a career you're not really excited about, pursuing a major that I could care less, I'm good at it, I guess I'll just keep doing it. How long is that going to keep a student involved in college? It's not. And that's one of the reasons we've got the statistics on graduation that I'm going to share with you here momentarily. The other thing that we have to begin understanding is which colleges are looking for me. I talked about the mailing lists from the PSAT in the sophomore year. There's other things that you need to begin to determine with respect to which colleges are predisposed to want me and the student that I represent. Remember, I said every college has an ideal student that they want to pursue. And that ideal student, I'm here to tell you, is not always the 4.0 high school graduate, okay? A lot of parents are under the misconception that, my student was only a 2.8, so they're never going to get into college, or they're not going to be the perfect student somewhere. Don't go so fast. Like I said, there's more than 4,500 campuses in the United States. Chances are pretty good there's one that is probably looking for your student as an ideal student at their campus if they've been able to answer that why question I asked about at the opening very concisely and precisely. And then in the junior year, we want to forecast college costs. For our clients, we put together a bit of a spreadsheet where we show on a year-by-year basis our anticipated cost for a particular college or type of college, and then we graduate down into what resources are available, whether that's a 529 college program. It's called a 529 qualified tuition program is what it's called, QTP. Most people call them savings plans, but they're not savings and they're not plans. It's not a plan to do anything. It's just a place you can put money and cross your fingers it grows, right? So it's a 529 qualified tuition program. Bonds, savings bonds, money in the cookie jar. These are all resources, as well as a student's income, a parent's income, money that you might be getting from grandparents. We identify all the available resources, including scholarships anticipated from the school or external scholarships. Then we forecast on a year-by-year basis what is the anticipated expense versus the available resources, so we can see early on, are we going to have loans? I'm here to tell you that most families incorporate loans in some form or fashion, whether that's student loans, Stafford loans, direct loans, private loans. Some form of borrowing is almost a part of every student's picture when it comes to college, in the pursuit of a 4-year degree at least, all right? So we have to be able to put this stuff together early enough because surprises kill. if you run out of money, if you begin recognizing, oh my gosh, we borrowed for 3 years from a parent loan and we just can't afford these repayment schedules, we can't go any further, then what happens? Well, the student has to drop out. They have to transfer to maybe a community college or something less expensive, or, these things happen that cause the pursuit of a 4-year degree to go 5, 6, 7 years, or just fall through the cracks. So the more forecasting you can do, the better and more solid your plan will become. Senior year. Now, senior year is where everything kind of comes together. When I say everything comes together, there are a couple things that we talk about that aren't driven by the colleges, like CLEP testing and dual enrollment, gap years. Those discussions obviously just depend on the student. And what we're really trying to get to here is understanding, is the student ready for college? Have we done the right things? The gap year in particular, a lot of students are attracted to the possibility of laying off from education for a year and either traveling or working or doing other things. So we talk about the pros and cons of a gap year under CLEP and dual enrollment, opportunities to accelerate potentially how fast a student can either graduate or get into more advanced courses once they reach college. So those are important aspects to discuss during the senior year. But pretty much everything else is driven by what I'll call the collegiate schedule. And the collegiate schedule, excuse me, is... As some of you may know, I talked about the FAFSA earlier. The FAFSA is is open, and we encourage you to submit as soon as you can in October. The FAFSA is open in October of the student senior year. Around Thanksgiving, that's when we want to make sure that the student has their applications completed for all the schools that they want to send their applications to. In the spring, the award letters come out and the acceptance notices. Around May, we're making the decision which school are we going to go to. Early summer is the time typically when we can make appeals. And the appeal process, there's an appeal process. What does that mean? Well, financial aid, remember I said sophomore year is the base financial year for determining your financial aid eligibility. So let's assume perhaps that there was a job change and income reduction sometime between the student's sophomore year and the parents recognizing that next year we're going to pay for college. Commissions were really great the sophomore year, and they're not so great now. There was a death in the family. I mean, there's a lot of things that can change that can reduce a family's ability to pay for college, and if appropriately documented and presented to the financial aid office, can represent an opportunity to amend a financial aid award that was based on the information submitted on the FAFSA. That's the appeals process. Now, there's another process called the Second Chance Awards that can increase a student's financial aid or scholarship opportunity. What happens is colleges offer admissions, let's say to a block of 1,000 students, and only 300 of them accept that and will come to that school. So the awards that the school was prepared to give to the other 700 go back in the kitty. And if they don't automatically invite another student, and if there isn't a student on the wait list who qualifies, a student who knows about the existence of Second Chance Award can go to the dean of the college, they can go to the admissions office, they can go to the financial aid office, they can talk to the president of the university and say, how do I pursue Second Chance Awards, and perhaps get some insight that makes college more affordable. All right. So that's the senior year. Now, I know we've covered a lot of ground, but let's cover some more because we've taken a look at what you should be doing to position yourself. But in the background, remember I said colleges want a particular type of student. I mentioned this report presented by NACAC. That's the acronym. I just love saying that name, National Association for College Admissions Counseling. And I'm going to recommend that you go get this report. Now, if, again, you've received this presentation as part of our distribution channels from guidance counselors or otherwise, we've included a link. But if you do a Google search, I think, on college admissions, you can probably eventually get your way to it. The report is going to show you what admissions offices are looking for to offer a student the opportunity to come to that college. And unless you're aware of that, on a college-by-college basis, you may miss out. We've got students every single year that we hear about who had seemingly perfect academic records, but weren't invited to come to a college. Why? Well, unless they knew their admissions criteria how can they possibly know if they've assumed that it was all about grades and standardized tests and they didn't get in? They didn't get in. You got to know this stuff, and there's no place where you can go and just get. Well, there is, but you'll spend a lot of money on the databases that we buy so we can have access to that information. But you're going to have to go to the individual schools and say, okay, how do I become the perfect student for the school? Ask them. That's how you find out. Okay. Now that's impractical if you're trying to find that needle in the haystack. So there's got to be a way to whittle these things down. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. As I said, 4,500 campuses out there. How are you going to find that one school that really, really wants you? You may be going to the school and asking the admissions office, what's your ideal student? And find out, oh gosh, it's not me. So then what do you do? The idea here is that every college, and the information that I'm going to show you here in just a moment is the aggregate. So this is the average college in the United States. This is what they're looking for. Here we go. Number one, grades in all courses. Remember I said in freshman year, let's focus on grades? This is why. The number one aspect that a college is likely to consider. Now, these are in percentages. I can tell you that 87.5%, I believe, of the 2,000 colleges that responded to this year's report said grades are the single most important thing. Next most important, close second, grades in prep courses. Well, isn't that the same thing? Nope. Look, we know that GPA protection happens. What I mean by that is there are some seniors who have done a really good job at maintaining their grade point, and they decide when they're a senior, you know what, let's take basket weaving because I want an easy A. Colleges sniff that out. There's a lot of colleges that will go out there and say, okay, you got a 4.0. Now we're going to take out all the gym courses and all the basket weavings and maybe typing, or I don't know what it is, but they're going to take those things out, recalculate the GPA, and they're going to use that as their admissions criteria. So very careful. Remember I said early on that they want to see a progression. They want to see that you've taken courses that are continually more challenging, and they want to see good grades. All right? So they're going to wash out the easy A's, and they're going to say, okay, now here's the real picture of that student. The next thing that's most important is the ACT, SAT scores. And again, I'm going to tell you that there's a growing list of colleges that don't really care about that. They're making it optional, and many of them are declaring if you don't send it, it's not going to hobble your ability to get into our school. So if you did great, go ahead and show them. If you didn't want to take it, if you took it and didn't like your results, you don't have to show them. By the way, when you take that test, the ACT or the SAT, you have an opportunity to declare up front before you take the test. Do you want your results to go to a specific school? We always recommend say no. You can always send them later after you know the score. Is it a better idea to send scores that you're unaware of? If you have absolute confidence in what your score is going to be, yeah, go ahead. But we think it's a much better approach to take control of that environment. You might pay a little bit more to ask separately for your scores to be sent to the school. But I think paying that is the assurance that you have that what they're sending to the school is what you want the school to see. Next up on the hit parade is strength of curriculum. Now this is kind of a dual angle here. The college wants to see the student's transcript and the type of classes they've taken to evaluate the curriculum that they've pursued, but they also want to know what was the curriculum available at the high school. Essay and writing example is next up. You're going to do a lot of writing in college. Some colleges put this higher on the list. There's a number of smaller schools that will want things like an interview, and they'll rank that more important. There are schools out there that the letters of recommendation are very important, that demonstrated interest is critical. The reason I bring that up, demonstrated interest. We've had students that had great grades, submitted their application to a college, but had never fulfilled the college's expectation of demonstrated interest. The student never fulfilled that bucket on the college's hit list, right? So what does that mean, demonstrated interest? It can mean something different to every college. Some colleges say you absolutely have to have an official visit here before we'll consider anybody for admissions. Other schools say you have to have made one-on-one communication, whether that's email, phone call, whatever, with an admissions counselor or the dean of the college or the president or somebody that's there that can be documented. Sometimes it's attending a college fair and making contact. So there can be a lot of different ways for demonstrated interest. But again, if we've had circumstances where a kid was perfectly academically qualified, but didn't check off the bucket for demonstrated interest, so the school said, if you're not interested enough to make contact with us, we don't think you're a perfect student for us. So keep that in mind. But that, in general, is what the colleges are looking for. And again, I would encourage you, any college that you're contemplating, however you've scored it, however you believe it to be the right school for you, go to the admissions office, find out what their criteria are. So now, weighing your options and how do you pick a school? Like I said, it's a needle in a haystack. I use Ohio as an example. In Ohio, there are something like 14 four-year colleges. There's 24 regional campuses, 23 community campuses. That's 61 choices in Ohio alone. There's 4,500 campuses across the country, and what I'm here to tell you is that every one of those campuses provides something unique. They're all not cookie-cutter college degrees. All right, you can't say that Purdue is the same experience as Michigan or Ohio State. Yeah, sure, they're all Big Ten schools. They're all big, huge schools, but they're all different experience. And you can't say, for example, that the Mansfield campus of Ohio State is the exact same as the Columbus campus. They're going to be different. They're going to be looking for a different type of student. Their criteria are going to be different. What they offer is going to be different. So what I'm here to tell you, again, if you can answer that why question at the front end, there is a right school for you. So just figuring out what school am I going to go to based on a search, I said that, is unidirectional. There's some great search sites. I've got them listed there. College Board, FinA.org, College View, collegesearch.com. And there's a lot of them out there. We've got a bunch listed on our resource page. I think that's a great place to start the process of finding out which schools might match your expectations, but it's vital for you to figure out, where am I going to be wanted? 9 out of 10 freshmen who step foot on college campus for the very first time believe they're going to graduate in 4 years. 58.4% will fail to do that. We're doing something wrong. I believe part of what we're doing wrong is selecting the college the wrong way. We're drawing a circle on a map saying how far from home. There's 15 colleges within our radius. Throw the dart, pick a college, here we go. We're making a decision based on what we think to be true about the out-of-pocket expense. Well, that's a state school. It's in my state. It must be the least expensive. Out of the 5 schools that are available, I'm going to pick that one because it's closest to home. Bam, there you go. Look, there has to be more to it than just picking the proximity to home and how much you think a school is going to cost. I say graduation rate is vital for you to understand because we have this tendency to evaluate the cost of a college based on our perception of their sticker price. A state school is less expensive than a private school, right? You've all heard that. Is it really? Have we done the progressions? Have we evaluated the total cost? At what rate are graduates from a private college employable after their degree? How soon will a private school student graduate versus a state school? Now, I'm not saying one or the other is better here, not at all. I'm saying you have to identify the actual total 4-year cost or 6-year cost to be able to make an educated decision. I take you back to the junior year-by-year forecast that we recommended. Unless you're doing things like that and understanding graduation rates, look, let's take an example, and I think I go here on the next slide. So when we're doing a search, and we're using, let's say, collegeboard.org, and I'm not going to pick on, I don't mean to pick on Kent State here, but I'm going to use Kent State as an example. Kent State University in Northeast Ohio. Kent State University, when you look it up on College Board, it says their graduation rate. Now, I want you to be aware of the fact that graduation rate nationally, the average is 42% in 4 years. So if your son or daughter is marching off to college, if they're like the average student marching off to college, 42% of them are probably going to graduate in 4 years. That's the statistic right now. And that's public schools, private schools, the whole ball of wax. So we've got 42% graduating. You look up Kent State on collegeboard.org, you look at graduation rate under the general information, and it says 57%, and all of a sudden you're saying, wow, that's pretty good. It's better than average. I got a better than average chance of graduating if I go to Kent State, until you realize that number is based on the federal requirement that all colleges measure their graduation rate in 4, 5, and 6 years, and what is reported on most search sites is the 6-year graduation rate. If you dug a little bit deeper, not on that site, but you dug a little bit deeper, and we've got, again, a number of private databases that we go to and so forth. The 4-year graduation rate at Kent State, 31%. Does that say that Kent State is a bad school? No, I'm not going to say Kent State's a bad school. It's a wonderful school. There's probably a lot of great, happy 4-year graduates from Kent State that are productive citizens in their workplace and had a wonderful experience. Kent State is not a bad school, but if I'm going to buy a degree from Kent State, if I'm going to send my student to Kent State, by golly, I better know that the graduation rate is 31% so that I can take an active role in ensuring that my student doesn't take 6 years to graduate and only have a 57% chance of doing that. I want to make sure I begin to understand why 31% of students graduate and why 70% don't. If I can understand why and I can address it, now I am a conformed consumer, and perhaps Kent State is the perfect college for my son or daughter because they fulfill the expectations of that school to become the perfect student. Now, what are colleges looking for? Colleges tend to look for a number of characteristics. And as I mentioned earlier, you're going to have to go to the admissions office or the financial aid office or someplace on the school to find out what do you use to describe the perfect student coming here. Who is going to be the student that graduates on time, that loves their experience and just succeeds at your school? Find out what that definition is. Because if you don't, chances are you are the student that they need, but they don't want. Have you ever heard that expression? We gravitate towards our wants versus our needs. I need to lose weight, but I want to eat the pie. All right? Schools know they have to fill seats to pay the bills. So they'll take almost any student that fulfills their minimum expectations who can write a check every year for the tuition. But what they want, and here's the two criteria. This might sound brutal, but what they want is a student they know is going to have an excellent experience on campus, who is predisposed to graduating on time, who can tell all of his friends and be an advocate for the school, and every single year during the fund drive from the alumni, they can expect a check written from that student. Now that sounds brutal, but look, it's the honest to God's truth. I believe that represents part of why a college seeks out a particular student, so they can work for them in future years and present an opportunity for some income. It costs a lot of money to run the schools. So they want successful students who are proud of their alma mater, who want to give back. Visiting colleges. I promised you that I would share with you a little bit of insight with respect to how do you do a college visit so that you're not subject to just what I call the dog and pony show. We also call it the rainy day effect. I'll share that with you first off. You go on a college visit. If you're unprepared, you don't know the questions, it's 45 degrees outside, rainy, beginning to sleet, students are all inside, maybe college isn't even in session. Historically, very few students like that school. Conversely, go to a school where it's 75 degrees outside, there's a breeze blowing, the sun's out, students are on the quad throwing the frisbee and laughing, and some classes are being held outside, and gosh, there's a lot of activity. Kids are going to love that school. We take the weather out of it. Look, you're not going to school for a tan, and I can promise you if you're in the Midwest or Northeast, most of the time you're going to college during the regular college year, the weather's not going to be ideal anyway. So we got to somehow figure out a way, how do we apply a scoring system that takes the sunshine out of the equation? And the way we do that is we develop a list of criteria. We recommend 15 to 20 criteria. They have to be measurable elements here. You can't just say the size of a college is important to me. Well, that's nice. Every school has a size. So how do you score that? You have to come down to measurable elements. A school has to have this. It can be food. Look, if you're sending your son or daughter off to college, it can be the dorms, the food, because they're going to be sleeping there, they're going to be eating there for the next 4 years. If they hate the food, and the food is the reason that they transfer to another school and you incur an additional year of college because they lost the credits that they would have otherwise continued with had they stayed at that school, you better put food on the list and try it when you're on the visit. Choosing a major. Now, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time here because choosing a major requires a lot of moving parts and a lot of evaluation. We rely on a number of tests that we use for our clients' students, and I'm sure you've heard a lot of tests out there. Briggs-Myers, Myers-Briggs. I always get it backwards. There's other testing methodologies out there. The reason I don't like a lot of them is because they have such a strong emphasis on aptitude and a very weak emphasis on the interests and values, and I think those things need to be incorporated in any sort of projection on where a student is going to be successful from a career standpoint. So if you can do that and reverse engineer what are the characteristics. I mentioned onetonline.org earlier, a good resource. It can be a bit of a rabbit hole because you can say, well, I like these characteristics of that job, but not necessarily that job. So you can click on the characteristic and it'll take you to a bunch of other jobs that have that same characteristic. Okay, so you can continue to do that. It's a fabulous opportunity, but you can get carried away. Nonetheless, choosing a major, here's the statistics on choosing a major. And when I say we give tests and we really focus on that prior to going off to college and prior to declaring, is because I know that if you've done your homework and can get conviction on your career pursuit, and again, I don't expect a senior to know the exact career they want to pursue, but the characteristics, I can use that to find the major that supports a lot of different job or career pursuits. So a single major can address a whole bunch of somewhat related career pursuits. So we reverse engineer. What are the characteristics? Okay, what majors support most of those characteristics? Which schools have that major? And then which of those schools are within our budget? And which of those schools do we represent the perfect student? That's reverse engineering. Here is how declaring a major works without that pre-work, without really going the distance of being confident that the major you're going to declare is the right one before you step on campus. Students who declare the day one when they step on campus, they will graduate in less time than a student who waits an entire year to declare their major. So if you go in undeclared, I guess it's okay if you didn't have the opportunity to do the work and figure out and reverse engineer and all that kind of stuff, because if you declare prior to the first semester, you're going to be in okay shape, all right? But if you declare day one, statistics have shown that you actually may change your degree because it was an uninformed declaration. So students who wait for a semester actually will graduate on time at a higher frequency. The reasoning is that they've taken that first semester to explore the career types, the majors, etc. So they took the entire first semester and they got a better result. What I'm telling you is if you do the same things that those students are doing before you get to college, you're going to have an even better result. And that's what we advocate, and that's why we think it's so important to do that reverse engineering in high school. Choosing a major after 1 year, you're going to add a half to 1 year in college. Changing colleges, if you've changed to a major that isn't offered or there's some other circumstance that requires you to change a college, you can add a year or more to pursuing that degree. So just be aware of that. So where do we stand? You have, if it's advice that I can give to anybody, it's first understand your why. Why are we going to college? Don't wait. The longer you wait, the shorter the time frame there is to get everything done. And hopefully I've given you some insight into the many things and the many opportunities you have to do the right things the right way to optimize the result of the right fit school, the right major, graduating on time, and paying the right price. There's a lot that goes into it, far more than the average parent recognizes until they see things like this presentation. When it comes down to choosing a college, if you point to your head, your heart, and throw up your hand and kind of do the Johnny Manziel thing where he wiggled his fingers together, the money thing, right? Get started and then evaluate the colleges. Here we go, the head. Which college is going to give me the best opportunity to pursue the career that I'm uniquely built to pursue? That's the head. The heart. Where do I want to go? That's got to be a part of it, because if we just say, well, that school is the best at engineering, so I guess I'm going to go there, but you don't like the school, it's going to be a bad experience. You might wind up transferring. You're not going to like it. It's not going to be as fulfilling as it could be. There's got to be an element of want, and that element is the heart. That's, I've got to enjoy the process. I've got to pick the school that I really want to go to. And then the hand, which one's affordable? Look, it does come down to some financial prioritization here, and it's not just the annual cost. It's the total cost. If there's a better than not chance you're going to graduate in 6 years, please understand that college might not be a lower cost college than a seemingly higher annual cost at a different college if you're going to graduate in 4 years from one and it's going to take 6 years in the other. And then evaluate the schools on facts and your criteria, not marketing. If you just subject yourself to the marketing and you go on the nice, bright, sunshiny days, I can almost promise you're going to pick the wrong college. So what are your next steps? I think there's a number of things that you can do immediately. Again, I'm going to encourage you to go to our website. I don't say that just purely for a marketing opportunity. I will tell you that I think you select any of our blueprints, you're going to be infinitely further ahead than most parents. You're going to have insight and information that will make your college decision, your college planning, your EFC optimization 10 times better than anybody who's not doing those things. Start with our self-guided, go to our foundation, look at our comprehensive. It's all online. Every single element that we offer in each of those blueprints is very well described, and if you need samples of anything, please ask. What I'm going to tell you is that it is most important that you get your questions asked, and it is also important that you know what questions to ask. Hopefully what I've done today is given you some insight and created some questions that you now have. I want you to understand that if you email us, we're going to get you an answer. Email info@onlinecollegeplanning.com. No obligation, no expectation. If you have a question on any aspect of college, we've been in the business long enough to be suited to be able to either be able to answer that question very directly, succinctly, and get you that answer and get you on your way, or to point to a resource that we have confidence can answer that question or suggest a next step. So we'll get back to you. We try to do that within one business day. You have a question, let's get it answered. On our website, run our report. It doesn't cost a dime, and there's a little picture of it there in the middle of that screen, but it doesn't cost you a dime. You're going to get a 5 to 8 page report depending on the information that you've put in, and it's going to show you your EFC. If your EFC can be improved, increasing your financial aid opportunity. When I say financial aid, don't for a second think that because you've got great income, you're not even going to be eligible. I just met with a family who is going to be saving somewhere in the neighborhood of $50,000 to $80,000 over the course of the 5 years that they're going to send their daughters to college, because we did the financial aid optimization process. Getting this report is step one. Can my financial aid be improved? And it's right on that report. You fill out a fact finder, the report gets produced, and you have at your fingertips information on financial aid, cost of attendance, EFC, graduation rates, the scholarships your son or daughter is going to be eligible for, a whole bunch of really valuable information. Take our course. It's a great stepping stone. If you feel as though you've learned something today, go out and take those 3 to 5 minute courses under the Services tab on our website. If you click on that, you'll see free report. Click on it. Run the report. Go to the very home page. Click on the Get Started tab. The Get Started tab is the enrollment in our 3 to 5 minute courses. Nothing you have to do other than give us your email so we can send you the login link. So a lot of tremendous resources that are at your fingertips. And again, the resource page, 60 or so links to almost everything you have a question on to help you get started and develop your own plan. I thank you very much for your time and wish you the best of luck on your college planning, and encourage you to take advantage of online college planning, the resources that exist in your high school, and really do what it takes. Get started now, and you can find the right fit college, graduate on time, and pursue the career of your dreams. Good luck, everybody. Look forward to hearing from you soon.